Now, for the Knicks, this is an interesting thing. So Emmanuel quickly now gets back, reinserted into the lineup. He plays 20 minutes last night.
He had like 14 points in 7 minutes.
All right.
When he first checked into the game.
It's kind of interesting because the more you watch him, you're like, wow, man, this guy's great. I got to see more of him. But then you realize what's going on here with the Knicks. The Knicks are in the middle of a rebuild, and not just a rebuild on the court in terms of players. I mean, just the whole mindset of the organization is going through a rebuild under Leon Rose. And Leon Rose said, hey, I'm going to bring in Tom Thibodeau, and we're going to at least play defense. And, Tom Thibodeau could be tough on younger players. You remember he come in the area and said, well, he overplays his players. Well, that really hasn't been the case to the Knicks. He's been playing 10 guys. And there's been a great rotation, and adding Derrick Rose now looks like a little bit of a stroke of genius for them because simply he has just given them offense and he's taught them how to play. But where the rub is with a guy like Quickly and Toppin and guys like R.J. Barrett is that the coach wants them to learn, and the coach wants them to also buy into whatever culture he's trying to develop there with the Knicks. So you're not going to see these guys as consistently as you would like to see them, because they're going to make mistakes. And he's not going to put up with that because he also has a directive that he has to win. It would be one thing to say, just throw the young guys out there and let them play, and then you get blown out 5 games in a row. That is not going to make Knicks fans happy. So Tom Thibodeau was brought here because he's a winner. He's got that in his background. He's a defensive coach, and he's trying to restore whatever pride there is in the Knicks organization. So in order to do that, you have to win. But you also have to develop young players. And part of that development process means that they may sit for games. They may not show up but 5 minutes. And he can tell pretty quickly whether or not a guy makes an offensive mistake, makes a defensive mistake, doesn't get on a rotation, is playing lazy. And he'll sit their ass to the bench, which I appreciate, which I do like. And I think the players are responding from it. And I think that's part of the word that we use a lot is resiliency. And I think that's what you're seeing from the Knicks, even though they're not at 500 yet. But, man, it's a pleasure to see young players growing. And a guy like Derrick Rose now who's got to teach Emmanuel Quickly, everything that he knows about playing point guard position in the NBA. It's a lot like playing quarterback. It's relentless. It's never ending. And there's a lot of anxiety and high stress there. And I think it's probably one of the reasons why you wanted Derrick Rose here in the first place.
Well, let me ask you, what's more important to you as a Knicks fan for the rest of the year? That they make the postseason or that they develop the young players?
I want them to make the postseason while developing the young players.
No, but what's more important out of those two?
Well,
because if it gets to the point where, and I know, to me, Elfrid Payton was getting too many minutes, but he was out last night with a hamstring, and then you actually saw Frank Ntilikina check into the game, but you saw Derrick Rose start. But let's say that the best lineup for the Knicks does not include at the end of the year, and it quickly has been awesome, by the way, and I don't expect this to happen.
Yeah, but he's been awesome every other game or every third game.
But still, he's been awesome. I mean, this guy was not a lottery pick. He's been great. He's exceeded expectations.
I agree with that 100%.
But let's say the best lineup that the Knicks have down the stretch does not include some of these younger guys. Is it a full bore push to the postseason, or is it like, man, you know what, we have to? It's really not about squeaking into the playoffs and getting your ass kicked. It's about trying to develop the players. Now, I'd love to do both at the same time as well.
Which he's trying to do that.
He's trying to do that now, but after the All-Star break, second half of the season, as you're getting close, then the pressure is going to be on to make the playoffs. It just will be.
But you know who's going to determine that, G? The fans aren't going to determine that. It's going to be the players themselves. If the players themselves deserve the court time, they'll get it. And that's part of Thibodeau's coaching, credentials. That's his reputation. And you earn your time on the court. And it's one of the reasons why, again, I go back to his familiarity with Derrick Rose. And I don't know why Derrick plays better for him than he does other coaches. Maybe they just have some certain special type of relationship that, a lot of us had with our coaches, especially the ones who got the best out of us. And, Derrick is not the kid that he was when he was in Chicago, and certainly isn't the player that he was here. He's got better coaching now, so you see a better player. And it's obvious to me that he has him here because he wants him to teach quickly how to play this position. And, that's part of Elfrid Payton, too. I mean, they now have 3 point guards. Would you say that, they're the top-end point guards in the league. No, you have 3 quality players that you can go to in light of injury. In this case, it's an injury to Alfred Payton, but you can also go to them because, you have quickly that you want to get playing time, but you just don't want to overwhelm that kid. That's all. So for me, Leon Rose is trying to get this team to the playoffs. That is the most important thing, I believe, in the owner's eyes and the guy who's running the team's eyes. We have to get to the playoffs. Never really a chance to do that this year. So that's the first step in trying to restore whatever culture has been missing.
Well, but I guess the bigger question is, does it matter how you get to the playoffs? If you get to the playoffs on the backs of obviously Julius Randle because he's your best player, but let's say this team develops into Emmanuel Quickley and R.J. Barrett's team as opposed to Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson's team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly. I understand what you're saying. I agree with the perfect scenario would be to say throw R.J. Barrett, throw Obi Toppin out there, throw Quickley out there, and let them develop before our eyes as they get their asses kicked.
But that's not the reality.
The reality is that the coach wants to win. The ownership wants to win. They're sick and tired of effing losing.
Fan base is too.
And right, we all are.
Yeah.
And we've mocked them for years and years and years. And they finally got the right coach. And they finally, are developing young players. And yes, Quickley has become a revelation. Now, I told you my buddies out in Kentucky loved the kid, and they were hoping that he was coming back. And I didn't think he was going to be this good. But, again, good, yes. Inconsistent, yes. One of the reasons why Thibodeau is playing, you're sitting. If you're not earning your court time, then you're going to sit. And I think that's part of the learning process for any young kid. Look, the kid is, 18 or 19 years old?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, well, of course.
And he's playing out there with the trees of the NBA. He's got to learn, but he's also got to sit and learn as well as playing with the ball in his hands.
Last night, though, there was a stretch there where he was dominating, and he also has developed skills that NBA veterans take years to develop. Breen even said it last night, the ability to recognize when you can draw a foul and how to do that adeptly in the league is something that takes a lot of guys a long time to figure out, and he's already mastered it.
Yeah, in this game, yes, but not against the Timberwolves and not against the Warriors. That's the price you pay and the balancing act that Thibodeau is trying to get these guys really quality time. Why do you think Barrett was sat down in the fourth quarter for a couple games?
No, of course. Well, he made an interesting choice going with Frank Ntilikina over Austin Rivers last night.
And Frank Austin Rivers.
Frank coming in for the first. Now he had some COVID issues and everything else. It was the first time he had played since December. I think December 28th. So seeing him, and he got a ton of praise. He bricked a couple of threes, but he was plus when he was on the court. His defense was really good that you expect from him. But that was an interesting move there.
Yeah, but don't you think Kevin Knox is buried?
Well, yeah,
he's buried. It's just buried. So this is what the coach is doing. The coach is the honeymoon is over. This is how we're doing this. They're fighting their ass off to stay around 500.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.